Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with more entertainment news. Now, I seen this debate online, and it's one of those debates that's a good debate, but I think is a little unfair just because of the two shows that we will be talking about. One of the shows is cemented in legendary or in historic fashions, and then one show is still it hasn't had enough time to sit with the culture, so we really don't know much of it that we know about the other show. So, just to be more specific, the Chappelle Show and In Living Color, the comparison of these two shows. Now, the Chappelle Show lasted 3 seasons, really 2 seasons, and then they had a few episodes, I believe 3 or 4 episodes in the third season before it also ultimately was canceled or Dave quit the show. But very legendary show, had a short run. Now, In Living Color lasted 5 full seasons, a huge impact, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But that show had a lot of impact, and this show, um, just had a lot of legendary pieces and had a lot of legendary skits. But Chappelle Show did too. But one show, In Living Color, had a lot more run, and I'll get into that because In Living Color had a legendary cast that produced at a very high clip and gave us a lot of great material, not just on that show, but in movies and films from other places. So you had Keenan Ivory Wayans, one of the better producers ever, who gave us scary movies, the movies with the Wayans brothers and others. Uh, and also he co-produced or produced Eddie Murphy's Raw, the stand-up comedy special, one of the best specials ever. Marlon Wayans was on that show, who was one half of the Wayans Brothers show. He was in the scary movie shows. He was in one of my favorite movies, The Sixth Man. A lot of different classic moments Marlon has given us. Damon Wayans, who had the My Wife and Kids show, was in Mo Money, had a lot of different other shows as well and movies. Did a lot of great things and what his son was able to do as well. Jim Carrey, we know, is one of the most legendary actors of all time, one of the highest energetic actors of all time with The Mask and Ace Ventura and Liar Liar and all these different movies that he's done in his career. One of the most familiar faces ever. Had got his start in Living Color. Jennifer Lopez, she was a fly girl who was dancing in the back. We know what her acting career was and the career she had as a singer as well. So she was very versatile in that way. Tommy Davidson, what he was able to do as an actor, David Allen Greer, and not to even mention Jamie Foxx, who is probably one of the greatest singers ever. So that cast had a lot of legendary figures in a lot of legendary skits. Homie Don't Play That, all of the different skits that they had and the impact that they had on the Super Bowl, actually having performers and getting Michael Jackson eventually to perform the first ever Super Bowl performance. So they've had a lot of different pieces, but then they're older show, so we have time to sit with how legendary that show is. We haven't had that much time with the Chappelle Show. It ended in the late 2000s. So we've been sitting with it about 15 years. I think it's still more time on that because the Chappelle Show had Dave Chappelle, who we know is a legend as a comedian, very good acting career, not as much as the comedian, the comic side, but he's had that. Charlie Murphy was a part of that show. Of course, Rick James as well, who had great or good acting careers. Donnell Rollins, who is a great stand-up, hasn't done a lot of great movies. He was in The Wire, which is one of the best TV shows ever, but he wasn't the star of that show. But Donald Rollins has been a solid comedian. Bill Burr, what he's able to do since leaving the Chappelle Show and his stand-up career and his legendary status is there as well. And then, of course, Neil Brennan, who wrote the show or wrote sketches on the show and things like that. But they haven't had the pieces, i.e., In Living Color has, because In Living Color had a lot of talent. Because you had Jennifer Lopez as a dancer, and then she was a singer and an actor, and then you had Jamie Foxx who can do multiple things as well, not just sing and act, but he can impersonate, he can mimic sounds as a singer. So it was a lot more talent on In Living Color, and I remember reading The Homie Don't Play That Book, which is a book written, about the In Living Color show, and what was great about the show and just the behind the scenes things. They asked, I believe, Keenan about the show, and he said he don't think there will be another In Living Color because there are not a lot of people as talented as the cast that he had to do multiple things. Now you have the, um talented sketch makers now in the form of social media. So you have the Instagram and the TikTok guys, and you have the guys that do sketches on there, i.e. a Drewski or a Desi Banks and guys like that. They have a different skill set, but most of those guys are not singing and dancing and mimicking and impersonating. Uh, Drewski does a good job of the makeup that he does and impersonating people, for the most part, but his skill set is a lot different than a Jamie Foxx or even a Jim Carrey because those guys just had a different they had more versatility. They were on a platform where people had to get out of their seats and watch it. Because now people can watch from the comfort of their phone or the tablet or the TV or whatever they're watching it on. They had so many different avenues, but back in the day, you had to go out and buy a comedy special. You had to go out to the movies to see these things. You had to go out to the store to buy records and things like that. Now it's a lot different. So the fan base is a lot more fickle because you can just skip something on your phone. But if you bought it back in the day, you felt invested to watch it because you spent 15, $20 on a DVD or a CD. So you felt like you had to listen to it all. Now you just pay $10 a month for a subscription and you can just skim through what you want to. So it's create that fickleness. So that's why I think it's a little unfair to compare In Living Color to Chappelle's show, but if I had to pick, I'm definitely going with In Living Color just because of the different sketches, the amount of time that the show lasted, the amount of legends on one show, just the talent that was all around. When you look at that cast, everybody went off to do something. Um, the Chappelle show, I mean, for the most part, people are still doing things, but it's just in a smaller set that you can't really see. But the Wayans family is a name that has to be respected in the industry because of their impact on Hollywood. And I talked about the Super Bowl effect and the NFL effect, what they had, but the effect they had on comedians today, like a Dave Chappelle, to put out a Chappelle show and be able to have that type of content or that kind of setting. I know Saturday Night Live was, preceded or was before In Living Color, but In Living Color was the black people's answer to a Saturday Night Live because Saturday Night Live is really not resonated. It's resonated for pop culture and not really urban culture. So In Living Color filled that void, and we don't have shows like that anymore, unfortunately. And I don't think TV is made for that anymore because it's such a internet based society now, that those moments are long gone. But unfortunately, fortunately, we had shows like In Living Color to be able to do that, fill that void for the urban culture. So, um, while I think Chappelle Show was in fact impactful, especially for today's comedians and today's sketch makers and skit makers, I think without In Living Color, that doesn't set the trend because maybe Chappelle doesn't put out a Chappelle Show. He doesn't have that room. Maybe he doesn't get that idea. But now with the advent of internet and the ascension of internet and how it's become so heavily reliable, I don't think we'll never get another In Living Color or a Chappelle show because, for one, the subject matter, a lot of things they talked about in those shows, people get counseled for today. So I don't think those things will exist today. So um, overall, I think In Living Color did more for the culture because it set up a person like Dave Chappelle to make that show and to create the room for today's sketch makers to do that, to do what they do today. So tell me your thoughts about In Living Color versus the Chappelle Show. And until next time, I'll see you next time.